Welcome to AV Insights and Advice. My name is Gary, and today we're going to be talking about how events have changed from the past 12 to 18 months going forward into 2022. I got some of my colleagues with me. I have
Brett Banta
and
Adam Evans.
All right, let's jump in. So technology has always been a part of what we do here at Clarity and in the audiovisual production world. But there have been some changes over the past 12 to 18 months, which we want to share with you today. One of them is hybrid events. We've all gotten used to hybrid events, streaming out virtual, doing live. We're doing a lot of hybrid events. It's a lot of fun. But Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about the technology side of hybrid events when it comes to remote presenters and how that integrates with the live and virtual audience?
Yeah, what's interesting about the hybrid events is a lot of people don't understand that it is two separate events, right? You have the live event, which we've all been doing for years, and now we have this virtual audience that really wants stuff on demand quickly. They want it done the way they want it, and it's happening with every event. It's not just the one here and the one there. I think we've done a lot of hybrid events, and so a lot of the technology that's been introduced over the last year and a half or so has been a lot of the camera work, remote cameras, robotic cameras, a lot of the technology that comes into the computers. There's so many different platforms now. So there's quite a bit of technology that's gone into these new hybrid events.
Yeah, there's lots to sift through, which Clarity can help you do that when it comes to those different pieces. Also, what we're hearing is for a live event or a hybrid event, when you have keynote presenters, you're going to get the request that says, hey, I want to shoot this from my studio. And I know that can happen nowadays because we've been doing it now for a long time. And so how does that work? So one of our jobs in production companies is working with those remote presenters, making sure that they look good and sound good in the live space and in the virtual space. And there's some technology behind that, such as what software are you using, the bandwidth. Internet's a big thing now with hybrid events. You got to make sure you have proper bandwidth, and we will do that for you. We will have tech checks and rehearsals, and we'll do tests on the internet, and we will assure you that that line is secure and that things are going to look good. But going forward with all live events, there's going to be a part of internet bandwidth, remote presenters, software, and what I've learned is that also rolls into pre-production. So
Yes.
I always like to say that with virtual events, 90% of the success of a virtual event is pre-production. So do you think that's going to be the same going forward?
I agree. There's been so much more pre-production than what there used to be. From getting the presenters that are in Spain, getting the presenters that are in Africa, and if their internet works, or if there's not a rainstorm going through. As far as some technologies, there's some things that we're dealing with weather. And so there's a lot of pre-production that goes into these events that wasn't there before the last year and a half or so.
Yep.
And so, we've really gotten really good at it. I would say I can't imagine how many actual pre-recorded videos we've done in the past year and a half. It's probably in tens of thousands. So it feels great to actually be able to pull a lot of people from all over the world to really engage in these events that are happening locally.
So plan more time in the pre-planning stage versus a while back for the live events to kind of accommodate some of this. Another big thing is accessibility. So social media and all these different things, people want content now. They want it yesterday. And so how do we do that? We have live events, we have virtual events. So Brett, as far as accessibility to content, what would you say about how that's changed in the industry over the past year or so?
Yes, some of the content that we're shooting in general sessions or breakouts are being turned around and edited within 4 hours in certain cases and then put on demand right away. So it's really turned around pretty quickly.
Yeah, so the content that's live now is expected to be accessible very quickly. So what we've learned is you can go to a breakout room, and most events have a lot of breakout rooms, right? So you may not be able to make it to one, but what we're seeing is you still want to see that one that you missed. So how do you do that? And the expectation is there. So one thing we did on a recent event is we added positions to the live event. In one case, we added 4 editors for there the entire time. So Adam, why don't you step through quickly, how that process looked from recording that content, say in a track room, how did we get that content to our editors and then up online within 4 to 12 hours?
Yeah, and when we say 4 to 12 hours of being able to get that content online, there was a lot of pre-production that went into it. So a lot of the lower thirds were already done. The backdrops were already done. We know exactly who the presenters are. We knew when they were presenting. And so once all of that actually was on the schedule, then we brought 4 editors on site to actually run.
They were running.
They ran from the editing office all the way to the breakouts. They grabbed the footage.
So we have a network where they could have got it digitally, but these guys wanted a little exercise.
Yes,
so they're like, you know what? I'm just going to run up there and get it from them.
Well, at the location, yes. I think it was a mile to each breakout at our location.
Perfect.
So it was great for them.
They were racing, probably.
Yes, they had little races.
Good times.
It was great. So once they did get that content, they were able to take the done lower thirds and backdrops and things like that, and they were able to put it onto that content. And then what's another thing that people don't understand is we need to have a high bandwidth for the internet, right? When somebody wants this turned around really quickly, we had hard lines to each one of these computers so that the editors were able to edit it and then upload it before they're getting their next edit. Or we would then have double laptops if that was not the case. So you've got 8 laptops, 4 editors, they're editing on one and transmitting the content online for the other.
Yeah, you're recording a high quality, right? So high definition, maybe 4K if it calls for it. And so those are huge files. So you have to have really fast internet, get that content to the editors, have those assets ready in advance. They do the edits. Another bonus is, in this case, we can roll that through a software. You can get closed captions. That could be up online on your virtual platform within a half a day and sometimes less, which is great.
Because I'm on, I like details, right? So when you say fast internet, what is fast internet to you?
Well, it depends what you need, but 50 megs up and down at a minimum or higher.
Yeah, so in our office we have...
I'm teching now.
Yeah, you're teching. We have a gig up here in the office, which we know that works really, really fast. And so we try to get up there, but that's how that video gets transferred so quickly.
Yeah.
So when somebody says, oh, do you really need 10 megabytes on your internet speed? And you're just like, no, we need a lot more than that.
Yeah, and editors could be on site. I think it's great, but they could also be off site as well. So also, we recently did an event, and it was a live event. We were super excited to do that. So Brett, why don't you tell us your experience? You were there with us. It was in Boston. It was a large event, several thousand people. It had everything that you would imagine at a live event, from social gatherings and some parties, large general session, track rooms, exhibit hall. It was a wonderful experience. But how are people feeling about live events now?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to take part in that event, and what I saw was that everybody was buzzed to be back around people again, and then to be in front of a general session and see the lights and the sound, and you can feel that. It's just a way different experience than sitting behind your computer. You're not going to feel that bass of the music and the lighting and how it works together with the presenter that's on stage. So I thought it was a really great experience. I felt like everybody else felt like it was a really great experience, and I think that's what we do really well.
I agree, and I was buzzed at night a couple times too. But one thing I found interesting in the market is we've done some tests, and our customers have done some tests with registration with no influence. Just, hey, we have an event coming up in 10 months, 6 months, whatever the timeline is, and they put out a virtual registration and a live event registration to test the market. And the great news is that the high majority of participants that wanted to attend these events registered for the live event. That is a great sign for our industry. We want to get back to live events. That's where the energy is at. That's where the excitement's at. That's where true connection happens. I think going forward, it's all about live events with the added bonus of the virtual component or the hybrid component. Right. So any Last words
I
on
will
live
s-
events from you?
As far as live events, I know one thing that was interesting from the registration of that event is a lot of those people didn't register until late in the game.
They did wait a little while.
They waited a while, which I think gave all the meeting planners heart attacks.
That's true. That's true.
But it was seeming to be a new trend, is that they're waiting and they're like, okay, nothing has gone wrong in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that if I book my ticket 3 days before, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. It's been a little bit later in the game that these registrations have been going through the roof.
Yeah, and because that is an important fact, that means the meeting planners and their partners and vendors need to be prepared for that and understand that some of this is going to come in very late. So what can you do in advance to prepare for that rush of attendees, that rush of registrations? But I will say that, live events, we're seeing live events come back across the country. We're seeing registrations up for live events, and there's an excitement around that. We're excited to be a part of it. And so I think the future is bright.
Very bright. Now that we have lights back into the rooms, it's very bright.
Excellent.
2022, baby.
Let's go. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of AV Insights and Advice. You can always reach Clarity on all social channels out there, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks.